Thank you.
Maharishi, I am a student from India, and I'd like to ask you a question about the different types of yogas, because lately, even though I'm a great believer of TM, that's why I'm here, but it still casts some doubt in my mind. In the absence of TM, there were different techniques discovered by yogis, for instance, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Kriya Yoga, and so on and so forth, which have no doubt produced very enlightened people. Maybe not all. In TM, there is an assurance that most people will. But in these techniques, only a few advanced masters have reached it. And I'm confused as to why did it have to wait till Gurudev for this to come out? Because India, as you yourself have called it, is the mother of wisdom, and Indians love truth most. Why did it have to wait till Gurudev to come out?
Because the cycle of knowledge, revival and extinction of knowledge, revival and extinction of knowledge. India has gone through all kinds of revival of knowledge. So this is up and down, forgetting the real wisdom. Unfortunately, the whole of the yoga philosophy, has been very highly misinterpreted, very deeply misinterpreted. All these different yogas, Hatha Yoga and Raj Yoga, Laya Yoga, Mantra Yoga, these different disciplines, they have been in their spirit, they have been so natural. All that we talk of about the natural procedure of TM, this is the essence of yoga. But misinterpreted, yoga has become a means of disciplining the mind, controlling the mind. Control is opposed to evolution. All these systems, Mantra Yoga, Laya Yoga, Raj Yoga, this Kriya Yoga also, Yogananda taught in the West. All these different systems, they have been interpreted to get control of the mind through the process of concentration. Repeated practice of concentration will inculcate a natural state of control. So ever since yoga, all these different systems, ever since the control was advocated, the philosophy of yoga lost its charm, lost its effectiveness, lost its utility, lost its universality. And what has resulted from that loss is suffering everywhere throughout the world. Suffering is only due to not properly understanding the philosophy and practice of what is called yoga, union. Yoga means union. Now, through our own experience, we know that mind is brought to that universal awareness. This is union. Individual mind comes in unity with cosmic intelligence, with universal awareness. This is the state of union. Now, in this happening of mind coming to be united with universal awareness, in this happening, it is our experience that breathing is influenced, body is influenced, senses are influenced, they turn inwards. As the mind goes deep in, the senses cease to experience outside, they turn inwards. Breathing becomes so refined, body becomes so relaxed, it just doesn't move here and there. Again, it is our experience, the the habits of behavior change, attitudes change. All the negative habits drop off, positivity springs. In the field of behavior, in the field of the senses, body, mind, prana, all these different spheres of individual life are influenced. Yoga philosophy is such a perfect and self-sufficient system of integration of life that it can pick up, it means the philosophy of yoga, it can pick up any aspect of life and through that create the same effect of all the aspects converging to that state of union. This is the perfection of teaching. In TM, we are taking into account the natural tendency of the mind, the nature of the mind we are considering. And considering the nature of the mind, we take the mind to that pure awareness. But we see that as the mind comes to that pure awareness, to that state of yoga, body, senses, breathing, environment, the whole thing is conducive to the mind's march in that way. Now, philosophy of yoga considers all these things separately, and by taking into account each of them separately, it produces the same effect that the individual is in union with the universal awareness. Body is taken into account, and this is the chapter of Hatha Yoga. Hatha means force. By force, one would transform the body to a value where awareness of the individual will be in tune with that universal awareness. So, Hatha Yoga starts to advocate bending of the body here and there so that the structural transformation and material transformation, it advocates lots of various practices so that impurities in the system, impurities deposited in the system, along with the stresses may come out only by taking the body into account. It prescribes so many activities of the body, pertaining to the body, and tries to create that high state of purity of the nervous system where the structure is functioning most normally and where the material of the nervous system is so pure that the nervous system functions most normally. And normally functioning human nervous system is capable of maintaining that pure awareness at all times, cosmic consciousness. The state of yoga, the individual united with the cosmic and permanently established on that value. Hatha Yoga accomplishes that by taking into account the conditions of the body. Along with the body, it also concerns with the breathing. Some breathing exercise, some deep, some shallow, some quick, some fast, different patterns of breathing in order to break the natural pattern of breathing and culture the breath to be so refined that the whole system could be helped for increasing purity. Is Hatha Yoga. Mantra Yoga, taking the mantras. Along with the mantras, breathing is associated, and all kinds of purity in behavior, in eating, in drinking, and all kinds of do this and don't do this, eat and don't eat, like that. All these various systems in order that the breathing could become refined. And every aspect of yoga, every class of yoga is perfect and is so scientific that it accounts for the perfection of the philosophy. It's so perfect. You only take the body into account and this. See, it's like the table has 4 legs and you draw one leg of the table and all the other 3 follow that. You take this leg and draw this from this side, all the 3 will follow that. So you pick up from anywhere, produce the same effect of all following one. It is this perfect knowledge about all these various fields of individual life that produce the different styles of handling these different aspects of the personality and raising the individual personality to come to that level of cosmic intelligence. Very perfect. But in its essential nature, yoga is what I said just now. But in its misinterpreted form, yoga is as is prevalent in the market today. The purpose of yoga philosophy was not to force and goad or discipline by force. Something should be incorporated in the daily routine whereby, without any sense of control, the whole stream of life as it is advancing in its purity as well. And a time comes much before the end of life that man could rise to the highest state of awareness, to the full state of purity of the body and mind, integrated personality. But the effect in the various systems as taught today for the last many 100 years in India and elsewhere, all the books on yoga that you find, the primary teaching is control. Control the body, control the mind, control the breathing, control life. And once for all we should know, control is opposed to evolution. Control is opposed to evolution. Life spontaneously proceeds towards higher levels, evolution. As I said in the morning, the force of creation is embedded in the force of evolution. Life must evolve. Any kind of control means you want the life, the current of life to be stagnant. Make your mind there and make it steady. Don't let it deviate. Concentrate. Concentration, control is opposed to the force of evolution, which wants to take the individual life to higher and higher states of evolution. Control is damaging to the purpose of life. Evolution is good. Natural. That is why we are so much emphasizing, and we are so proud of this emphasizing, that very naturally the mind should be brought to bear upon the infinite value which is there deep within us. Very naturally. Any control, any concentration, we have seen in our practice. We know from our own experience that any inception of desire or any analysis, any manipulation, any expectation, it just is jarring to the mind. You feel as if you get headache here and headache here, something. Slightest intention to concentrate produces strain. And what will happen when the whole philosophy of integration is based on the principle of control. From our experience we know that slightest idea that I must transcend, not even must, maybe this time I will succeed. Even faint expectation, very faint idea of concentration puts a resistance to the process. So when the idea of concentration puts a resistance to the process, what will happen when we start on the project of concentration? That is why, even though in itself yoga philosophy is so perfect, but in its misinterpreted form, it is only damaging to progress and evolution. It's only damaging. When I first visited Germany, there are hordes of yoga teachers, numberless yoga lehras. They call lehra, yoga lehra is yoga teacher. All the yoga lehras. In about 6 weeks' time, 10 very strong centers in all the biggest towns of Germany sprang up. And this was a big news. In 1.5 months, the whole country was shaken for its ideology of yoga. And the questions that were in the general meetings, in the halls, mostly about concentration, control, and I was outright, I didn't know that all these yoga teachers have been advocating strict discipline, very strict discipline. You mustn't go to cinema, and you mustn't smoke, you mustn't drink, you mustn't do this, you mustn't do this, mustn't do this. Thousands of families in Germany were following those strict disciplines with the hope that some day, when the whole system is purified, they are going to enjoy that unbounded bliss consciousness. That temptation of samadhi made them live all those restricted lives, very sincere seekers. But years are going by and they are not accomplishing, because they are told that impurity of the system and this, all this, all this. At the end of the first tour of Germany, there was held a congress, German Congress of the Spiritual Regeneration Movement. And the whole thing was such a grand success, the whole country, papers and all this, thrilling with this new thing that you can have samadhi in a natural way and you don't have to go through years of discipline and all. This shook the teaching of yoga in Germany for the last so many years. 4 yoga teachers wanted to meet me. I said, I'll meet the yoga teachers a second. As they entered the door, one of them said, your transcendental meditation has put an end to yoga in Germany. I said, I welcome you because you feel for the end of yoga. By my being here, the roots of yoga should go deep into the unfathomable areas for eternity. And you say it is rooted out, that means you are really sorry for the yoga to be disappearing, and this is of value to me. Come, we'll sit and talk. In the meantime, some other man said that your teaching is against Pātanjali. Pātanjali. How many of you have heard the name of Pātanjali? All have heard. He was the exponent of yoga philosophy. Patanjali philosophized the whole system of integration of life. All the systems have been philosophized by Patanjali, and that is called Patanjali Yoga. He said, your teaching is against Patanjali. I said, I welcome you because you take Patanjali to be authority, and I also take him to be that. Come on, we'll sit. And then I said, tell me how this transcendental meditation is opposed to Patanjali. Then the third man said, Patanjali has said 8 steps to yoga, to samadhi. And you say, like that, samadhi can be gained by anyone? Without going through 7 steps, how can one suddenly get on to the 8th step? I said, you are absolutely right. No man can get to the 8th step without having to go through 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 7th. But we should see whether Patanjali advocated these 8 steps. And if he has, then we will see whether transcendental meditation provides those 8 steps in one lift. Maybe it provides all those height of 8 steps in one lift. I said, Patanjali never advocated that there are 8 steps to samadhi. They are not 8 steps. This yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. These are not 8 steps. These are the 8 different fields of life which are influenced when yoga is attained. Patanjali, the very name of yoga, according to Patanjali, is not 8-step yoga. No. It is 8 limbs of yoga. As if the body of yoga is composed of 8 limbs, hands and feet and head and stomach and this, 8 different limbs. Ashtanga, it is called Ashtanga. Anga means limbs. These are the 8 limbs of yoga. Patanjali never said these are the 8 steps of yoga. He said these are the 8 limbs of yoga. As if the body of yoga is made of these 8 parts. And everyone knows that when the body develops, all the limbs develop simultaneously. Hands and nose and eyes and feet and stomach and all. Every limb grows and develops. So the growth of yoga means growth of all these sections or spheres of life simultaneously. There is no sense of step at all. Samadhi, asanas, pranayam, pratyahara, all these things simultaneously grow. That means if one grows 1 unit of samadhi, then all the 7 others also grow to that 1 unit. If samadhi grows to 90 units, all these 7 spheres also grow into their value to the same extent. The growth of personality, the growth of the senses, the growth of the mind, the growth of prana, the growth of the body, the growth of the relationship with others, the growth of the influence that the individual produces for the entire creation. This growth is uniformly accomplished. The uniform accomplishment of growth in all spheres of man's concern, in all spheres of man's life. Therefore, there is no sense of steps. Samadhi is not the 8th step. All of the 8 are found in every step. And this we can conceive, meditators of transcendental meditation can appreciate what Patanjali said about the 8 limbs of yoga, 8 parts of yoga. We know that when we meditate, expansion of mind is one thing. At the same time, when we come out, open the eyes, artists have told us that their color scheme is better now. eyes open more, perception is sharper than before. So this is expansion of the ability of the senses. Senses become more acute, sharper. They are able to appreciate things in their truer perspective. Greater realities are perceived and started to be lived in life. In all these different spheres, prana naturally becomes refined. We are not required to do anything for the refinement of prana. Naturally, prana is refined. With all these experiences on our personal level, we understand Pātanjali to have advocated only transcendental meditation. The soul of all the yogas. This is yoga philosophy. We are not responsible for the misinterpretations of samadhi, and if misinterpretations have become common everywhere, we can deplore the whole situation and start refreshing the whole atmosphere. If everything has gone wrong, someone in India said to me, in open lecture like this, and he said, "You mean to say that all these saints who have gone by were wrong and you only are right?" I said, when I see your life, I am only concluding that this new voice only is right. And all the old voices, from wherever they came, they must have come from the field of ignorance. We don't know who said it, but whosoever advocate concentration, control, the need of detachment, renunciation for enlightenment, whosoever he was, he didn't know what he was talking about. Whosoever he may be. He may be God incarnation speaking from heavens, but we'll say, please stop. Let us hear the voice of the earth. The whole thing is wrongly interpreted. Misinterpretations of the Vedas, of the Upanishads, of Gita, of this whole philosophy of Vedanta, philosophy of yoga. The whole thing is in such a mess that we hope that with this voice of revival and with such a simple and natural system to give the experience of inner reality, the situation will change, the understanding will change, but it's a job that needs time and devotion.
Maharishi, in your introduction to your commentaries on the Gita, you remarked about Shankaracharya, and you said that in the absence of the sun, the lesser stars take over. And I love that metaphor anyway, because I'm an English major. Anyway,
you love it because it's truth, no?
It is also true.
Every day we see when the sun is set, the stars take over. It's our experience of day. Every day in the sky, this thing keeps happening.
In the absence of Shankara's, the way he expounded Vedanta, would Ramanuja and the others be correct?
The main mistake of Ramanuja and Madhva and all others was to disregard transcendental awareness. In advocating devotion, they disregarded this pure consciousness and established their field of devotion on the level of thinking of God, singing of Him, praying to Him, all the time thinking of Him. So, devotion is a thing on the field of being. One lives that in life. One doesn't have to say, I love you so much, and one doesn't have to keep on saying, I love you so much and I love you so much. It's a thing. Love is a thing on the level of life. One lives it. spontaneously one lives it, particularly that unbounded love whose waves are so high as to fit the touch of God. That love is a thing of life. It is on the level of being, and disregarding being from the field of devotion is taking devotion to a baseless. It's like building castle in the air. You can't build. It's not possible to establish the field of devotion irrespective of pure awareness. So, when these people started to expound devotion, they just sang in the praise of God. If one's awareness is full of bliss consciousness, if one's mind and heart is full with that pure consciousness, then the song of the God is just a wave of bliss. Already when the awareness is universal, then only these songs and these prayers, they have a meaning in contacting that field of the Almighty. Otherwise, it's just thinking and glorifying the bank remaining in the market. You cry for the bank, you remain in the market and think of the bank and call the bank and pray the bank and make all kinds of things on the streets of the... But unless you enter the bank is not going to be significantly useful. So, when these people after Shankara started to glorify devotion, they did not uphold this transcendental awareness, and due to that, their followers, even though swinging in the moods of devotion, felt some waves of happiness in their moods of devotion, but couldn't get to the enlightenment which devotion brings, couldn't get to God consciousness, which is the goal of all devotion. And therefore, they didn't last in time. They didn't last in time, in their teaching remained ineffective, just remained ineffective. And people were dissuaded to keep on wasting their time in crying for God or in wanting for Him and all kinds of things which were labeled as devotional practices, but resulted in utter mood making. It's a loss of life.
Is it possible for one, many thinkers and philosophers and even advanced yogis believe that you can always explain the how of creation but never the why. In other words, why was the universe created? If a man reaches supreme knowledge, which is the seventh stage as you have forwarded, will he know why the universe was created, why creation itself?
The why of creation is hidden beneath the how of it. Once we know the creation is a display of cause and effect, and that effect serves as a cause for further effect. It's a display of cause and effect and cause and effect. And this is how the manifestations evolve. In this how of creation, the why is found. Why creation? To evolve. How creation? From cause to effect, from cause to effect, from cause to effect. So in the answer of how of creation, the why of creation is found. The purpose of creation is expansion of happiness, expansion of life, expansion of happiness is the purpose of creation. And how from more latent states to more expressed states, from more latent to more expressed, from more latent to more expressed, from finer particles to the nucleus, and from there electron, and then the atom, and then molecule, and then the muscular level. the whole creation in sequence of evolution, from finer to grosser, from grosser to finer we experience in meditation. So from this way to that way, from that way to this way, and this is natural nature. The absolute evolves to the relative evolves to the absolute, and both ways life flows because it is meant to be that way. This is the nature of life.
Perhaps I'm asking ultimate questions when we don't have too much time, but why does the one have to become the many in the unmanifested state?
Because there is no fun in loneliness.
I think you've answered my question.
The Almighty can't possibly remain lonely all the time. And in His almightiness, He remains lonely even in the midst of the many. So He is the one and He is the many, and many in one and one in the many, and that is the almighty nature. The whole thing is natural nature. Nature of the Almighty.